in, again, once again, Faith and Trust, page 222. We're heading towards the end. So I'm figuring this was going to be 2 more weeks tops. I can't imagine going any further than that, unless we get into a whole discussion. So in 3 or 4 weeks, I may take a week off just to let everybody get the book. But then we'll start learning, what's it called? Derech Hashem, the way of Hashem. I'll give everybody the, I can give you the, I
brought back the copy and put it back in the best.
So if you have it, I would advise getting the art scroll.
Okay.
And I'll put that in the bulletin.
Feldheim is really good, though, the elucidator. It's really, that's the one you have.
Feldheim, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
I have it, whatever.
They had it at 34%
okay. I'll put it out, and you guys can get what you want. There's a couple of different copies. You can get the, what's it called? He died. Living Torah. Who was that translator? The Living Torah. Who translated Living Torah? Aryeh Kaplan. Aryeh Kaplan did a very nice translation. You have a different translation, so it's, again, that would be up to you how much you want to spend. But I think, like I said, that should be in about 3 or 4 weeks.
Okay.
So I want to advertise it out anyway, so it probably has to go in the bulletin before I would start the class. So we'll finish this. If there's a break of a week, there'll be a break of a week. I believe it's called in English, The Path of Hashem. I'll show you the book. Before you leave, please remind me. Okay. It's called Derech Hashem in Hebrew. Okay. So here we are, 222. The Ramban, in his commentary on Bamidbar, says that it is known in the ways of medicine that it is dangerous for anyone bitten by a poisonous animal to look at that animal or a picture of it, to the point that people bitten by a rabid dog or other rabid animals, if they look into water, they will see the image of the dog or the other interest animal, and will die, as it says in Sefer HaRafuot, which is a book of medicine, and is mentioned in the Talmud in the tractate Yuma. Doctors are also careful not to mention the name of the biting animal, so that the bitten would not think of it, for their souls will cleave to that thought, and it will stay with them until it kills them. I'm talking about anxiety here. And we know something tried and true from the wonders of creation, that if you take the urine, there's all the Ramban, he's just going to Ramban, that if you take the urine of someone bitten by a rabid dog, when he is already insane from the disease, and put it into a glass vessel, one will be able to see the image of little puppies. If the water is strained through a piece of cloth, they will disappear completely. But when you return them to the glass vessel, they stay there for about an hour, you will once again see these quote-unquote puppies. Okay? And this is the true wonders of the power of the soul. This is a whole Ramban in the Chumash. Okay. Unless I would see it, there's no way I'm going to say he's wrong. Obviously, he was seeing something. I mean, whatever he was seeing, I can't verify or deny, but that's what he was seeing.
Well, you were a big Ramban fan until they said something like that, huh?
Well, as far as knowledge like that, that goes back to a side discussion on sympathetic magic.
No. He's saying that he's going by what you see. So again, you'd have to take the urine of someone who's rabid, and then see what he was seeing in the test tube. There's something to talk about. So he's describing that as looks like puppies. I have no reason. Again, he's saying I saw this, so there's no reason to argue on what he saw. You see what you see. Does it really? What it actually is? What kind of germ or whatever he's looking at? Formation. I can't tell you, but that's what he was seeing.
I have to wonder if that was something he actually saw, or it was the lore of the age, because he never actually encountered somebody who was just about dead from a bite from a rabid animal.
So I can't answer that. I can only tell you that if you want to see the commentary in full, it's in Numbers chapter 21, verse 9.
Yep.
Okay, but he basically quoted everything. His point here is just that if something happens, it'll have an effect on us. So it really is.
A strong, something that happens to you that's a very strong or frightening thing.
Right, it's going to have an effect on you. So that's really all his point is. And he's just quoting the Ramban to make that point. In the Gemara, like I said, but you'd have to test that out. Hopefully you won't be able to in your whole entire life. Find a person who's rabid and so on and so forth, who's about to die. But if that would happen, so you could figure it out. I don't know. In the Gemara, Bab Metzia, it says that Shmuel Yarchana'eh was Rabbi Yehuda's Nasi. One day, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi's doctor. One day, Rabbi was suffering from an eye illness. And Shmuel Yarchana'eh suggested that he put an ointment into his eye, Rashi explains. Rabbi said he could not endure this procedure. I'll apply it on the outside of the eye, said the doctor. And still Rabbi could not endure this idea. So Shmuel placed the medicinal ointment in a hollow tube and put it under his head, and he was healed. The power of the medication, Rashi explains, the power of the medication permeated the skull and the brain all the way to the eyes. Again, I'm not sure what's going on here. I'm not going to get involved in medical information. Okay. In Chulin, it is told of a sheep in our area that we had a piece of its throat torn out, and they took a length of hollow reed and placed it in there, and it lived. Okay, there you go. Another medical thing that you have going on. In the same place, there's another story. Rabbi Shimon ben Chalafta had a chicken whose thigh bone became dislocated, and they made a hollow tube for a reed, and it lived. They're really doing operations, Jack. It's fascinating. In Pesachim 56, it is told that the Sefer HaRefuot, again the Book of Cures, was hidden away by Chizkiyahu HaMelech, king. I think you just call it Hezekiah in English. Rashi comments, because the people would not be humbled by their illness, but would be cured immediately. Now he's asking the question, why did he hide the book away? I have a book of Refuot. I go there, I find out what I have to do, and you're hiding this on me? Why would you do that? Because people they wouldn't feel good. They would go right to the book and they would look it up. You know what we call that today? Google.
Yeah.
You don't feel good, you go into Google. You look at it, it says boop, 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 and it tells, you have to do this, very nice. And you can be cured, depending on as long as you know where to go. Okay, but this book would actually work, unlike Google, which gives you 1,000 or 1,000,000 hits. So what you're going to get, this book would actually work. So the Rambam in his commentary on the Mishnah states that he was given an explanation of this matter, that Shlomo HaMelech, King Solomon, wrote the Sefer HaRefuot, the book of cures, so that when anyone became ill, he would refer to that book, do what was written in it, and be cured. When Chizkiyahu, Hezekiah, saw that the people were not trusting in Hashem, he took it away and hid it. The Rambam, Maimonides, there disagrees with that commentary, claiming that it is not right to take the means of healing away from people, just like it is not right to deprive them of food. But it seems that the commentary mentioned by the Rambam is the one passed down through the generations, whereas the Rambam's own commentary is difficult to understand. For it should not have said that in the Gemara that the Sefer HaRefuot, the book of healing, without elaboration, but rather it should have said what it was in terms of the forbidden and the harmful. The Rambam questions the commentary on the basis of comparisons to food, and that requires understanding, for it is said in Bava Kama, now the Gemara, it is learned in Tana Debei Rav Yishmael, regarding a person who caused bodily damage to another, and the Torah said he should recompense him and completely heal him. Rashi explains that means pay the doctor to heal him. From this, we learn the permission that has been given to the doctor to heal. Okay, without the Torah allowing a person to be healed by an outside source, one could argue that I have no right to see a doctor because that's a lack of faith. And if God's given me this malady, I have to deal with it, I have to do tshuva, and so on and so forth. Well, the Gemara says, this may be true, but since we're not at the level, spiritual level of relying upon God, that's why God said, I'm going to allow you to see the doctor. We're not there. So once I was given the permission, if I don't go to the doctor, then I'm guilty of arrogance. Okay, so we're not talking about going to the doctor for a headache, but when your kid has, like my baby just had an ear infection, you don't say, I'll say thank you, Petal, it's going to go away. You go to the doctor, you get the medication.
You mean you don't hold by the Christian Scientists?
No, as a matter of fact, I'm saying that they are 100% wrong.
I know.
Okay?
Yeah.
That you have to go, and if it's, when I had to go for my operation, they asked me, I thought it was a strange question. They asked me, if needed, will you accept a blood transfusion? I said, well, I'm not willing to die on the table, so do what you have to do. They said, well, some people are against it. I said, if I was against it, I wouldn't go for an operation. I would just say whatever God wants. Hello. Okay. But it's, like I said, I thought it was a strange question because I never was asked that question before. But it's, I was thinking, how they couldn't do something I'm going to need a transfusion for? Didn't make me feel so happy, but it scared me a little.
They saw they keep on confused you for a Jehovah's Witness.
No, they didn't say that. They talked to me on the telephone, actually.
Oh.
They didn't know who I was. But it's, no, but I'm saying that's where we get this whole permission to heal from the Torah. Again, without that, we wouldn't be able to. Then we would be worse than the Christian Scientists. They don't allow anything. Do they go to the doctor? Oh, they don't go to the doctor. It's fine. So then it will be on that level. And now, like I said, the rabbis say, we're not there. We're not there. We don't, spiritually, we don't have that. So that's why God told us to go to the doctor. And that's why it's incumbent upon us to go to the doctor at a point. Again, if you have a little headache, you don't go. But if you have something wrong, so you have to figure it out. Okay. In the Gemara Brachos, it says, Rav Acha said, since it is not the way of people to heal, but nevertheless it is customary. Okay. Rashi there explains that people should not really try to cure others, but rather should ask for Hashem's mercy. Abaye on this Gemara objects to Rav Acha. He said one should not say because permission has been granted for the doctor to heal. From this we see that the medical care is not like food, and we don't need to have a special verse to permit us to eat. Rather, hunger is not a punishment, and eating is actually a way to serve Hashem. The table of the righteous person is compared to the altar of the temple. As it says in the Mishnah Pirkei Avot, 3 people who ate at one table and spoke words of Torah while they were eating, it is as if they ate at the table of the Lord. Now think about that. You have 3 Jews sitting on the table. And if they don't speak words of Torah, it's as if, as Pirkei Avot says, to go the other side, it's as if they were eating at tables full of vomit, which is compared to the idolatry. That's what they're really comparing it to. But if we speak words of Torah, we have elevated our table to the altar. Now, the rabbis also say the easiest way, the way to fulfill that mitzvah without even trying, is when you bench together. But I say I'm benching. I say the grace after meals. I've raised the level of that table from just a simple table to an altar. Fine. And also, that's why at a Jewish table, you're going to have salt on the table. There should be salt on the table. You don't have to use the salt. It should be salt because the salt was on the altar. It was not on the altar, but it was used as the everlasting covenant. So that's why people will have salt, and that's why when they make, they have bread, they'll dip it in salt, whatever the case is going to be. But that same thing, because the table is like the altar. If not for that, you wouldn't have the salt there. It's not that we like high blood pressure. What's the matter?
Nothing.
You don't like it?
I've heard other explanations, but
they weren't as good as mine.
No, they weren't.
Okay. 14 minutes into this. If people are listening 14 minutes, I'm still good. So, So, but illness is a punishment, he says, and it is right for the ill person to strengthen his resolve to repent and to pray for mercy. But permission was nevertheless granted to seek treatment because only a select few are on such a high spiritual level at which prayer is sufficient and no physical treatment is required. Okay? He's saying that. Not the Gemara anymore. He's quoting the Gemara, but he's saying, he's making that point.
The Chazon Ish or
Yeah, the Chazon Ish. No, the Chazon Ish.
Okay.
Now, the generation of Hezekiah was different. It is said about that generation in Sanhedrin, that they searched from Dan in the north to Beersheba in the south, and did not find an ignoramus. And they searched from Gavas to Antipras, and did not find a young boy or girl, nor a man or a woman, who were not sufficient in the halachot of ritual purity and impurity. And also in Sanhedrin it is said, deceitful is charm. That is the generation of Moshe Rabbeinu. And vain is beauty. That's the generation of Yeshua. And God-fearing wife is to be praised. That is the generation of Chizkiyahu HaMelech. Such a generation, therefore, was worthy of standing strong in his faith and trust, and could shun the services of doctors. The Ramban, Nachmanides, already wrote in the Parshat Bechukotai, that's in Leviticus, the last part of Leviticus, that the few remaining people who are zealous and sanctified by the service of Hashem do not use doctors, but that is the level of the very few, such as Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai and his comrades. Again, he's making the point that go to the doctor. Don't stay home. Don't think you're there. It's very arrogant to think you're there. And he's saying that in the 1100s, 1200s. I'm saying that in 2000. You don't fool around. Okay, in Malachim, in Kings 1, Malachim Aleph, it says, the wisdom of Shlomo was greater than the wisdom of all the sons of the east and all the wisdom of Egypt. And in verse 13, it states, he, Shlomo HaMelech, King Shlomo, spoke of the trees, from the cedar that was in the Lebanon to the moss growing on the wall, and he spoke of the animals, and of the birds, and of the reptiles, and of the fishes. Rashi explains that he knew the healing qualities of each one, and that certain trees were good for certain types of buildings. Also, where it was best to plant them, and regarding the animals, how to heal them, and the principles of raising and feeding them. So he understood animal husbandry, he understood farming, he understood all these things, and if you go to him for advice, he could even tell you. The Ramban, in the beginning of his commentary of the Torah, writes, I saw a translated book called The Great Wisdom of Shlomo, and it says there is no king or ruler that came from a different type of birth. All people enter the world in the same way, and they exit also in the same way, and therefore I prayed, and he gave me a spirit of wisdom, and I learned, and the spirit of wisdom came to me. I preferred it to the scepter and the throne. And it says further, God is the one who gives knowledge that is free of falsehood, to know how the world was established, and the actions of the zodiac signs, the beginning and the end, and the average times of the zodiac, and the orders of the stars' movements, and the nature of domestic animals, and the temper of the beast, the strength of the wind, the thoughts of man, the relationships of the trees, and the powers of the roots, all hidden and revealed things I knew. And in Malachim, again in 1 Kings, it says, and all of Shlomo's drinking vessels were made of gold, for Shlomo had ships of Tarshish on the sea, together with the ships of Hiram. Once every 3 years, the ships of Tarshish come bearing gold. Paragimionism, which was actually mentioned in the Talmud. Okay, and it's very ancient. Well, Onklos is Caesar's nephew.
Which
Terror-
Caesar?
I forget.
That's a title like king.
I know, but he was, I forget, it was first
I thought
century.
he was first, yeah, I was gonna
First
say, I
century.
thought he was in first century.
First century. Targum Yonasan, I think, is before, and he translates much of Tanakh, Torah too. He translates Torah and Tanakh, and he stops. He doesn't do, I think, Daniel, because he wasn't allowed to. But I think that's the one he doesn't do. Okay. But anyway, that's who he is. So he said, once in every 3 years, ships from Africa arrived bearing gold. Today, we know that gold mines of Shlomo. Today, we know the gold mines of Shlomo in Africa, where he mined the gold. And today, one needs to have much practical knowledge in order to extract gold from Africa. Okay. In the Gemara in Avodah Zarah, it is said that David HaMelech wore a golden crown on his head, wearing a kikar, and it did not weigh on his head because it had a magnet in it. Rashi explains that the magnet had the characteristic of pulling upwards. So, being attached to the crown, it would pull it upwards. And it was planned so that its pulling ability equaled that of a kikar of gold, so that the crown did not float above David HaMelech king, nor did it weigh on it. I would love to see this crown. Okay, it basically was weightless. It would sit there. I don't know how to do that.
How much is the key cost? Do you know?
No.
The weight?
No. I never know these things. Well, I claim ignorance because I don't even understand how metrics work. I know pounds. I know only what I've been taught when I was younger. I don't know the other stuff. But kikar is what they call an ingot?
An ingot.
Ingot of gold.
I think that's about 2 pounds.
I think what it was.
Hmm?
I think that's what I remember seeing.
I would guess it varied widely from era to era.
Okay, could be. I'm not sure. You'd have to. The ones who would know this, by the way, would be Carmel. Carmel does the. Carmel is a book on the Talmud, so it tells you these measures, and it goes through what the Talmud said it would be good for.
Okay.
People do know, I just don't. And like I said, they use it in grams and things that I have no concept of what they're talking about. No matter how many times I've tried to figure it out, I just don't understand metrics. I only knew that 100 miles an hour, 100 clicks an hour was 62 miles an hour. That's all I ever knew.
So you don't get that ticket.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah. It's also cool to say I went 110 miles an hour. But it's, Tosfot explains, okay, so I said that. Tosfot explained that the magnet was affixed to the ceiling of the room, directly above the royal crown, the throne, and it would attract the crown so that it would not weigh on his head, but was also balanced so that it wouldn't lift the crown up. And according to all the explanations, it is one of the wonders of nature.
Tractor beam.
There you go. And now we come to I believe it's the final chapter. This chapter, we may finish it. What time is it? We may get very close to the finishing. Okay. This chapter he does not finish. He died before he finishes. Okay? So we may finish this tonight. I don't know. So the truth that constitutes the secret of the world's existence is that Hashem's presence fills the entire world, and from the reality of Hashem's being stems the very existence of the world. He causes everything to be every moment, and His will is continued, so to speak, in every material object, both under the sun and above it. This will of Hashem is the cause of all existence. All movement that takes place in all of creation, inanimate plants and animals and people, all of it is done with his knowledge, by his will and agreement. One of the secrets that have been revealed to human beings is that man has the power of refining his soul and purifying his mind by way of knowing his Creator, to the point that an elevated spirit and a sublime feeling rest upon him. and then the Creator grants him some form of connection between him and his Creator, and he is worthy of hearing commands from the mouth of the Almighty, as one would hear a fellow man talking. This level we call prophecy, nevuah. We do not know the quality of the prophetic voice, but we must picture it in our mind using the sound of voices as we know it, and our sense of hearing as we know it, for it says that the prophet heard it. See, it's not telling you what it's going to sound like. It could sound like a person you know. It doesn't matter. However, one should not ascribe to the Creator a voice like that of human beings, but this voice is created for this particular moment so that the ear of the prophet can sense it. Sometimes prophecy comes into the heart of a human being, and he pictures in his heart everything that the Creator has awakened his spirit and in his soul to do as the Creator has commanded him, or to speak to whomever he was told to prophesy to. This could also be, I think, what we call, I had a feeling. I had a feeling about this. I my inner voice, whatever the terminology we want to use. Nobody's going to admit that they're hearing voices unless they want to end up in Bellevue, or whatever the equivalent would be in South Bend, Indiana.
Oak Lawn these days.
Oak Lawn, thank you. Okay, it's the name thing. But it could be that, like I said, when you're doing something in your mind, you're speaking out loud and you're talking to God without anybody hearing you. You're just having that conversation. What's the matter?
Thanks.
And suddenly you talk out the answer. Again, that could be prophecy.
Mm-hmm.
That could be a sense of prophecy. You don't have to hear it. It's just you
know it.
You know it.
An inner knowing.
Right.
It is an assessment question. Are you hearing or seeing things that are not real?
Oh, so the answer is that is, of course they're real. I'm seeing it. But you won't see it.
I've never had anybody answer in that fashion.
I would. If they would say to me, are you hearing voices? I hear voices all the time. And they're all real to me. I don't know. You don't hear them because you're not at my level of spirituality. I can't help you. That's why someone say, burn. Okay. So, a prophetic connection between the Creator and his creations is one of the foundations of the creation of the world. Such was Hashem's plan, to create man, to grant him wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, as well as the ability to hear the prophetic words of the Creator. Again, you have to be willing to listen too. Okay, it's not enough to God speaking like this, but I have to have my reception up. That's what he's really getting across to. For the purpose of man is his being created with two inclinations, the good and the bad. That is, a natural inclination toward that which is immediately pleasurable, and also a desire that comes from the intellect for wisdom, acts of kindness, and other good deeds. Hashem's will was that man would scorn evil and choose good, but not all of the good can be known by way of intellect. Rather, rooted in him is the ability to choose to do good, and to the point that the person would be capable of achieving prophecy. And then Hashem will command him regarding what is forbidden, and should therefore be refrained from, and the good deeds that he is obligated to do. When Adam was created, he was created with the power of prophecy. Then he was prophetically commanded to observe 7 negative mitzvot. That is 7 things that in refraining from them, man is refraining from evil, and other mitzvot that are positive ones to be done actively. The Creator revealed to him this truth of the Seeker of the world, that there is a hidden Creator who created the entire world, heavens and earth, and all that they contain, by the reality of his existence, and his providence is constant upon all that was created. And this Creator commanded him to beware of even thinking of solutions other than the truth, and of conjuring up various forms of avodah zarah, idol worship, directed at the heavenly hosts or other false powers. He was also commanded to observe other practical mitzvot, not to steal, not to shed blood, not to commit incest, and not to eat meat from an animal that was still alive. All these, the 7 Adamite commandments. Noah, God, because of other reasons, but that's why we call them B'nai Noach, because they're the ones who survived the flood. But really, the Chazon Ish is arguing that Adam also was given these commandments. Adam, the first human being to be created, was a perfect human being, as perfect as human being can be. And he heard Hashem telling him what to do in regard to all his actions by way of his prophetic powers. His son Cain, too, even though he had stained his hands with the blood of his murdered brother, still did not lose refinement of his soul, enabling him to listen to the heavenly voice. And he indeed heard the words of, "Where is your brother Hevel?" 10 generations passed from Adam to Noah, and in which the situation deteriorated. And there the sun shone once again in the generation of Noah. The goal of creation, the chosen of all the creations, man, who had been created to recognize his creator, strayed and turned to false gods for 10 generations, but then girded his loins to climb out of the abyss all the way to the heights by strength of a completely righteous person, namely Noah, whose soul was attached to knowing Hashem, his creator and the savior from all distress. The generation of Noah came and went, and the generations after him lost their understanding and knowledge and deteriorated to the level of animals. 10 generations, which means that they followed their whims and desires rather than looking to God. They went to Avodah Zarah, they went to idolatry, they did everything possible to distance themselves from their Creator. That's what he means by they went to the level of animals. Whatever felt good, they wanted to do. 10 generations from Noah to Abram came and enraged their Creator. Did not fulfill and enraged the Creator because they did not fulfill man's purpose in the world, and the entire world was like an empty vessel, unwanted, expected to return to chaos, until Avram Avinu, Abraham our father, appeared and lit up the world, washing away the filth of the generations, removing the imperfections, revealing spiritual beauty. The wisdom of the generation illuminated it. Everyone recognized the secret of the world, the secret of the soul of man created in God's image and likeness, forsaking the pleasures of human beings, basking in the glow of wisdom, learning 400 chapters of the tractate of Avodah Zarah, idol worship, that was taught to them by Avram in this wisdom. Avram converting the men and Sarah converting the women. And I have to emphasize just one thing. Just take the Torah at its word at this point. 20 generations after the creation of the world, we had deteriorated to such a level that everybody was involved in Avodah Zarah. And you don't have to even, for those who want to verify that, they can go into every single culture and they can see that that's true. Okay? We were involved in all that. One man and one woman, Abraham and Sarah, literally changed the world. Changed the world. And for those who want to really understand that more, Rabbi Lindau is giving a speech on December 25th, called The Gift of the Jews. Fine, but he has his own spin on it. It's not just going to go with the rest of the book. But it's true. Let's face it. Avram and Sarah, just one person, two people, literally changed the world. Without them, we would not know monotheism. And as Bill and I have talked about many times, Abraham went out of nowhere to come up with this concept of monotheism. Now, he didn't really. There was still the Yeshiva Shem Be'aver there. So it was always there, but he's the one who was the ultimate kiruv worker. He got people to believe it and to work with it. Really, it was kiruv. He wasn't just sitting down like Noah. What was Noah's problem? Why didn't Noah get this? Because Noah was a tzaddik in palace. That's what the rabbis call him. He made sure he was warm. He built his ark, but he didn't go out and try to change people. Avram did. And since when Avram went and showed him that there is a God who does care, there's one God, he cares about us and everything we do, and it's a personal God, that attracts people. That's why the people wanted to come into it. Not because they heard there's one God versus 50 gods. Who cares? But this God cares about me. He's not torturing me because he wants to. I'm not his pawn. God loves me. Oh, that's a beautiful message. That was his, and what did he preach? He preached Gemilas Chasadim. If you look at what he was preaching, that was what he talked about. Acts of loving kindness. Okay? So now we're about to end been a long way, but we're here. Since then, the learning of Torah has not ceased. Abraham passed it on to Yitzchak, Isaac, and Isaac to Jacob. Jacob studied for 14 years in the yeshiva of Shem and Eber. Remember, Shem is Noah's son. Eber is the grandson. So they learned the Torah from their father. Who learned the Torah from Adam? Noah didn't know Adam. Okay? So, and passed his Torah. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I do.
Noah did not know Adam. I forget how the chart went.
I read that they did.
They did? Fine. Okay. So I have to just look at the years actually, because Adam was 930. So it depends on when he was born. But I'm pretty sure he did know. Okay. And Yaakov Avinu and his sons went down to Egypt, and the divine presence of Shekhinah went with them, as it says in the Megillah. That is, the Jewish nation merited to perceive the Shekhinah, to raise themselves above the inhibiting habits, and to delight in the pleasure of Hashem's presence. That's where it stops.
Wow.
So we'll never know what he wanted to say about prophecy other than what he already did say. And I'm not willing to extrapolate on that.
Beautiful way to end your life.
That's
I love it.
Yeah, that's it. Like I said, so it'll be a couple of weeks till I advertise the course. But then, for those who are watching, 36 minutes into this. So again, it's going to be Derech Hashem.